Welcome to new book called Project Valuation Using Real Options by Jairus Publication. This is, I don't know, this is Practitioner's Guide. Let's start with a preface. Here goes. To invest or not to invest is a question pondered every day by business executives all over the world. You may be regularly involved in helping the executives of your organization to answer that very question, and perhaps that is why you're reading this book, and we suspect that you belong to one of the following three groups. You're relatively new to real options and excited about learning more. You're intimidated by its complex theoretical groundwork and hoping to find some simple application tools, or you're totally frustrated with it and were just about ready to give up before you came across this book. Whatever group you fall into, believe us, we understand where you are coming from because we've been through the gaunt of those emotions ourselves. But first, let us thank you for reading this book and giving Real Options a chance. Maybe another chance if you are among those who are ready to give up. A real option is right, not an obligation to take an action on an underlying non-financial asset referred to as a real asset. Now, the action may involve, for example, expanding or contracting a project, or even deferring the decision until a later time. Now, real options analysis is a tool that helps to quantify the value of an option. It is a relatively new project valuation tool, and we think it is experiencing growing pains. It is just a matter of time, we believe, before it becomes a standard tool in the valuation toolbox. After all, it took decades for the traditional discounted cash flow analysis to become the corporate standard for project valuation. Now, while we wrote this book for several reasons. First, it seemed to us that most of the current books on real options are long on theory and short on application. We repeatedly heard from our clients that there was a strong need for a book that focused on the real-world application of real options tools. Second, considering the theoretical complexity involved, many practitioners are taking a black box approach to real options solutions, causing resistance from management because of lack of transparency. Now, we wanted to break that black box, and walk you through the solution process step by step by holding your hand. We hope that this will help both you and your management understand the tool and its application better, and ultimately result in wider acceptance of real options analysis in your organization. Now, third, most real options books deal with valuation of relatively large, strange initiatives and companies as a whole. Now, we wanted to focus on project valuation rather than company valuation, although the principles are basically the same for both. And finally, most corporate managers and decision makers seem to think that you need a PhD in finance to understand real options, but we disagree. So we wanted to write this book that does not require even an MBA, let alone a PhD, as a prerequisite. We started this book with those goals in mind, which we hope we have accomplished. The real inspiration behind this book is a real options course we presented in spring 2004 for a client. The background research material and the final course content formed the foundation for this book. But the real catalyst in making this book formed the foundation for this book. But the real catalyst in making this book happen is the overwhelming positive feedback we received about the course. Now, who can benefit from this book? We have a broad audience in mind. Corporate executives and senior managers can benefit by understanding the real options principles and importance of the real options mindset in the decision process in today's uncertain world. Program and project portfolio managers will be able to select the right tools and techniques and make the real options framework part of the overall valuation and portfolio management methodologies in their organizations. Now, most important, we wrote the book for the financial analysis, the real practitioner who needs valuation tools to do this or her job every day. Now, we hope our audience will find the book most valuable in terms of the tools. Now, step-by-step calculation and the insights presented herein. Finally, we believe that this book presents a solid introduction to real options for any student of business management. Now, how this book is organized, the first chapter introduces real options analysis as a project valuation tool, presents the terminology and draws parallels between real and financial options. The second chapter is discussion with examples on the three frequently used traditional project valuation tools: the discounted cash flow method, decision tree analysis, and Monte Carlo simulation. Now, chapter 3 introduces the concept of risk, differentiating market versus private risk, describing what is known in financial circle and as the discount rate dilemma, what discount rate to use under the circumstances. And this chapter also presents a discussion on the challenges a practitioner faces in applying traditional valuation tools. Chapter 4 focuses on how real options analysis supplements traditional tools in project valuation. It also shows under what conditions real options offer the greatest benefit over the traditional tools. Chapter 5 presents the methods and computational techniques commonly employed to solve real options problems. The next chapter deals with real world application of real options, with a discussion on limitations of current options models and how they can be overcome. It also offers a 6-step process to evaluate a project using real options analysis. Chapter 7 includes examples of simple options, expansion, contraction, abandonment, and step-by-step calculations illustrating how to solve the options problem in each example. Similarly, advanced options, sequential and parallel compound options, rainbow options, and so on. Examples and step-by-step solution for each example are presented in Chapter 8. And the last chapter of the book addressed real-world issues in the current status of real options applications in the corporate world. Now, the spreadsheets used in conjunction with the numerous example calculations presented throughout the book, as well as the solutions to the problems included at the end of each chapter, are available at jrospublication.com and coca-cola.com. Additional information and ancillary material related to the real options are also available here. Um, now, now, Thales, a famous sophist philosopher from 600 BC, gazed into the star-studded sky over evening and predicted an outstanding olive harvest the next season for a small upfront fee. He bought the right from the owners of the olive presses to rent them for the usual rate during the harvest season. If the harvest turned out to be manager, there would be less need for the presses, and Thales would not rent them, losing the upfront fee. But if the harvest was bountiful, he would rent the presses at the regular agreed upon price and turn around and rent them out to the farmers at a significant margin. Now, sure enough, it was an outstanding harvest, and Thales rented the in-demand presses and made a fortune. He was apparently more interested in improving the wisdom of sophists than making money. And as Aristotle tells the story in Politics, this is one of the frequently cited earliest examples of real options contract, wherein Thales bought an option, a right, but not an obligation to rent the presses, the underlying risky asset. This is called a real option and not a financial option, because underlying asset is a real asset and not a financial asset. Real options evolved from financial options, and therefore the terminology is common in both. Now, using a simple financial example, let us first introduce the options terminology and draw parallels between commonly known financial options and poorly understood real options. Financial options example like High-Tech is a publicly held technology company whose stock is selling at $20 per share. The stock price is expected to rise significantly in the near future. because of the company's innovative products and market demand. At the same time, however, there is also market uncertainty that indicates a possible sharp drop in the stock price. As an investor, you can buy shares of a stock today at $20 per share, or instead buy options to buy or sell the stock in the future. An option is a right, not an obligation, to either buy or sell the stock, the underlying asset, at a predetermined cost, or on or before a predetermined date. For instance, let us say that you buy an option on the underlying stock of high-tech today at the market price of $2. That gives you a right without any obligation whatsoever to buy the stock 1 year from now at prices of $25. 1 year from now, if high-tech's stock price drops below $25, you can walk away with no obligation to buy the stock and lose the $2 that you pay to acquire the option. On the other hand, if the stock price goes above $25 to say to $35, as a rational investor, you will exercise your option and buy 1 share of the stock. This would be worth $35, but you pay only the agreed upon price of $25, thus making a gross profit of $10. Accounting for the initial price of $2 paid to buy the option, your net profit is $8. Thus, using the options approach, you would exercise your option, buy the stock only if it goes above the exercise price. Otherwise, you would walk away and take your upfront fee as a loss. Now, in another scenario, you may acquire an option to sell if you believe that the stock price of high tech will be below $25 a share 1 year from now. You may buy one option of the stock at the market price of $2 that gives you a right with no obligation to sell the stock 1 year from now at a price of $25 per share. If the stock price is above $25 share on the day, you will not exercise the option, which expires and becomes worthless. However, if the stock price drops below $25 to say $15, you will exercise your option to sell 1 share at the stock worth $15 for a price of $25, making gross profit of $10 and net profit of $8 after accounting for the initial option price of $2. In both of the above scenarios, the options approach allows you to take advantage of the payoff when it is positive while limiting the downside risk. Options terminology. The first scenario above involves an option to buy and is called a call option. The sell option is the second scenario, is called a put option. Now the price at which the option is exercised is called the exercise price or strike price, which is $25 per share in both cases. A European option has a fixed maturity date, whereas an American option can be exercised on or any time before the option's maturity or expiration date. Now, therefore, both of the above scenarios involved European options. The commonly used key options terms are summarized as follows. An option is a right, not an obligation of its owner to buy or sell the underlying asset at a predetermined price or before a predetermined date. A buy option is known as a call option and a sell option as a put option. A financial option is a right, not an obligation, to take an action buy or sell on an underlying financial asset at a predetermined cost or before a predetermined date. A real option is right, not an obligation, to take an action, defer, expand a contract, abandon stage on an underlying non-financial asset and at a predetermined cost or before a predetermined date. And the expiration date is the date when the option expires or matures. An European option has a fixed date when it can be exercised. An American option can be exercised at any time or before the expiration date. Thank you for listening. We'll follow up next time.